Well, for those that are in with me here, firstly, thanks for taking a few moments out of your evening to join our presentation to cover some of the important things that deal with our fall two sports season. So I'll go through a lot of the information. I'll try to spend a little bit more time on a few things that are obviously much different in our COVID timeframe. But in order to kind of get started, this will be recorded too. So if you miss something, or if you know of another family that couldn't be here tonight, or you want your son or daughter to be able to watch it, we will have it available. We'll put it up on our school's YouTube channel, and I'll put a link to that on our social media feeds, our Facebook feeds, etc., so that you can review that at a later time. For those who may not know me, my name is Randy Abrams. I'm the athletic director here at Haverling. And this is our fall two sports. This is a new one for me. I've never had a fall two season. So let's just kind of get to it. So as some of you may be aware and some of you may not be, our athletic handbook is available. It's on our school's website. So if you go to the www.bafcsd.org, and then under departments, there's a drop down there at the top of that page, and there's one there for athletics. And then when you're on the athletic part of that page, there's a spot there for handbook and other forms. So this is where all the important information is on academics and attendance and eligibility standards and everything that's important to be familiar with, especially if you're a newer parent of an athlete in our school. So rather than go through that and highlight a bunch of pages, I've pulled some of the important pieces out, but you definitely do want to spend some time at some point and go through that document on your own. So one thing that's definitely new this year is this idea of remote attendance. While we're still in our hybrid schedule, where students are coming in, to attend and be in attendance at the school every other day, that makes their other day be a remote day. So on those remote days, it's the student's responsibility to get up and make sure that they do this remote attendance by 1 o'clock. So once they log into their machines, their computers, it automatically pops up on their Chromebooks, and it's literally as simple as a click for them to say, I'm up, I'm working on school stuff. I know with some students, they consider their remote day just to be like a day off. I don't have any school today. Great. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to play. I'm going to go work or whatever else. It's not intended to be that. It's intended to be another school day where they're up and they're working on school related information. So long story made short, when they're in person, so they're in school that day, they need to make sure they're in before 10 a.m. And if they're on remote, they need to log in and click the button by 1 o'clock. Okay. If they don't, then they are remote absent, then they are ineligible that day, whether it's a practice or a game. And for some of these athletes, this is new now. This is their first sport this year. For other athletes, they've been doing it all year long. So, but that's a big thing as parents, to make sure you're stressing to your children. That's a very important that they get up on those remote days and get that done. Set an alarm if they need to, whatever it takes. I know as a coach myself during my season, I was texting my kids every once in a while and just reminding them, hey, make sure you get up and do your remote attendance. They're eligible to have one tardy. And then after that, which is when they come in after 10 o'clock, after that, when they have a second tardy and or more, then they're ineligible. So it's really important that they get here on time throughout their school days. Academic policy, this is different. I was just talking with someone else about this, and this is a different time frame for these fall athletes. Normally, our fall athletes would be starting in August and really not being impacted by one of our marking periods until the very end of their season, like almost sectional time. Where now they're in a totally different time of year, where, like, for instance, our end of this fourth marking period in the high school is this Friday. So failing grades, lack of effort referrals, that kind of stuff, that's going to hit this group of athletes more than what they're actually used to. So it's very important that, athletically or academically, that students are staying up on things, making sure they're getting all their grades done so that they're not being ineligible as they go forward. There are sections in the athletic handbook that you can review, which really cover the academic pieces. If a student they get lack of effort referrals, or if they failed one course, they may be eligible, but they have to do little runaround sheets, which they'll get from Mrs. Garrett in the high school office. So that's really important that the students keep up with that as well. On the athletic calendar, okay, if you're not familiar with the athletic calendar, if you go to our school's website, there's a link off to the left that says athletic calendar. It's a big blue button. And on that, there is the option for everyone to sign up for this notify me part, okay, which I have highlighted on the slide that you see. That's your way, if you're not already on there, of being able to get notifications from the program, really from myself, whenever there's a change, a game time change, a location change, a reschedule because we had a snowstorm, which is not something we normally have to deal with during this, this sports seasons. But that is your way. You can either get a text message or an email or both automatically sent to you. And this is one of the first places I go when there needs to be a change, is I update it here first. So if you haven't signed up for that yet, I highly encourage you to do so. And you have to select which sports that you want to be signed up for. It's not universal. It's not all sports. If your child doesn't play, baseball, then don't sign up for baseball. But if they play football and then they're going to play baseball or lacrosse in the spring, then select those two. Okay, so and those will stay on there. So keep track of your login information for that, because you'll keep getting those reminders even after your child maybe graduates, unless you go back in and uncheck all of the sports that you wanted to be notified for. We'll talk a little bit more about the school calendar shortly. So a big piece that I think most of you are probably really interested in right now is trying to figure out what the spectator limits are for all of our different sports. And I'm going to tell you, it's not the same. It's different for every school that we deal with. Here at home, okay, we're in Steuben County. Wayland, Cohocton, Hornell are in Steuben County. So we all have our local Department of Health that says that we can only have 2 spectators per home athlete. As we go to different areas within the LCAA or within the federation schedule for football, we can be in upwards of 6 different counties. In each of those counties, Department of Health has a different ruling when it comes to the spectators. So on our athletic calendar, so this is a snapshot from the athletic calendar, we have tried to, for most of us, at least in Livingston County, and definitely for ourselves, we post exactly what the limitations are. So this is from some games next Monday for the JV football game that's here. Okay, we say that there's 2 spectators per home athlete, no guest spectators are allowed. Underneath that one, there's one here for volleyball going to Dansville. Due to the size of our team, Dansville, again, in a different county, they are allowing guest spectators, but only 1 per of our athlete. Okay, so it's a little bit different depending on where you go. So it's important that you read the athletic calendar in order to know, can I go to that event? Because the last thing you want to do is travel all the way to, say, Livonia, and they say, no, you can't come in. So most of that information is here on the athletic calendar. So that's really where you want to go. Since I'm right here and I have this picture here, if you can't go because we don't allow spectators, or maybe we can only allow 2, for one of our home games, but you have others who want to watch that event, you want to look for these little blue live, they're supposed to be little camera icons. If you click literally right on that camera, it will take you to that school's, whether it be ours or somebody else's, live stream. Most of the schools are live streaming as much as they can, varsity, JV games, some modified games. and they're either on their YouTube channels, their school YouTube channels, or they're on their Facebook pages. But that's where you get the link to go directly to those events. Okay, so look for that in our athletic calendar. For the specific event that you're looking for, click on that little blue button. It'll take you right to the live stream. In terms of expectations for COVID-related things when you are a spectator, for our inside events, okay, our expectation is you will have your face mask on the full time that you are in attendance. So this would be our volleyball games for fall 2 sports. We pull out all of the bleachers on one side for volleyball. So we want to ask you to social distance, stay at least 6 feet away from, another family, which we should be able to do. Modified events are a little bit, tighter in the middle school gym, but there's enough room to try to spread out. And then you have to maintain your face mask. You'll sign in when you come into those events. Some of our events, we do have the passes handed out. So football varsity, okay, the passes will be handed out. JVs, there will be passes handed out. They're actually on my desk for football. Volleyball, JV and varsity will have passes. For some of our modified events where we literally only have 3 home games and none of them are allowed for away games to have spectators, we may not be doing the passes for those, but you'll still sign in. So when you come in, there'll be hand sanitizer there. You can use that. We disinfect the pen, but if you want to bring your own pen, you can do that as well. But you'll sign in on the clipboard, and then, like I said, you'll go to your seat, but you have to keep your face mask on. When we're outside, so for football games and we're in, the bleachers, we still want you to social distance, spread out, okay? Obviously, your own family can be closer together, but you want to stay away from non-family members. Once you're seated for outside events, then you can remove your face mask. If you get up, you want to go talk to another spectator or go up to talk to a supervisor or go to the bathroom, then you have to put your face mask back on. And that's the same way that we did it in the fall for outside events like soccer. Let's see what else is in here. Transportation. Obviously, we expect everybody to ride to events. If there is an event where away spectators are allowed, then you can sign your child out after the event to be able to take them home with you, and that's fine. You just need to see the coach. Coaches should have a sign-out sheet of some sort so that we have a record that you actually took your child. So it's important that you kind of work that out ahead of time. There is a form. We haven't done a lot with it this year, but there is a form on our athletic department website under the forms and handbook section that if you wanted your child, it's an away event and there was spectators being allowed there, and you wanted your child to be able to come home with maybe your friend who lives next door kind of thing. You can fill out that form ahead of time and give it to your child to give to the coach that says that, Johnny's parents are actually going to take you home. But we need that authorization from you before that can happen. For events, obviously, that don't have spectators allowed for away events, we would expect everybody to come back on the bus. Expectations for the athletes. I realize some of the athletes may not be in on this presentation, but if they are, they definitely want to listen. Or you can make sure that you kind of cover this with your child. During the COVID time, there's 1 athlete per seat. They sit all the way to the window side. They shouldn't be out in the aisles or towards the aisle. Okay. I will say this from being, a winter coach myself and just finishing up that season. Make sure the players know to bring warm clothes. Okay. The windows are slightly cracked. They're down a little bit to increase the airflow within the bus. So it can be a little bit cooler. Obviously the heat's cranked, but it can be a little bit cooler on a cold night on their way back. So, bring a knit hat, bring a knit hat, bring gloves, bring warm stuff for those trips on the way home, especially. For athletes, when you're on the bus, try to keep your volume down. There shouldn't be a lot of yelling. It's very distracting for the drivers. There should be a lot of selfie taking where your flash is going off for obvious reasons. We try not to distract the drivers any more than absolutely necessary. When you're leaving, just have the respect, pick up all your garbage, throw everything away, thank your driver. for taking you. And you'll wear your mask. The face mask should be worn throughout any time that you're on the bus. Not a situation where when you sit down, you can take it off. You have to wear it for the full time that you're on the bus. Coaches will have a seating chart. So for athletes, wherever you sit there on your way back also, so that the seating chart doesn't change. If there is a situation of a positive case, we need to know who sat next to whom. So it's important that you stay in the same seat. Then the last piece on the bus transportation stuff is we are picking up with these later bus depart times. We are picking up from the lower high school gym entrance. I know there were some times last year where we picked up top at the upper level of the gym. That was mainly for those after school events where we already have kids being picked up, from Dana Lyon or something along that line. But because we really don't have any buses that leave before 4:15, there's less congestion out back now. So they will be picking up and dropping back off at the lower high school gym entrance. As we go through the season, should you have any problems that you need to discuss, then firstly, the athlete really should talk with the coach. Maybe it's about playing time, maybe it's about whatever it may be. So the player should talk with the coach first. If that doesn't seem to be helping, whatever the situation is, then the parent can arrange a meeting with the coach, and then you can work yourself through the chain of command. And that is in the athletic handbook on page 13, but it's also highlighted there. Concussions, they're still there. COVID didn't remove all the concussions or anything like that. I will say, knock on wood, it's been a very good year in terms of this. But all of the information about concussions is in the athletic handbook. There's also a separate section on our athletic page on the website that gives all the concussion protocol and the steps for athletes to return and such. So that's definitely something to be familiar with. Oops, I need to click on that. Athletic trainers this year, if you're someone who has been here for several years, we used to have Mondays and Thursday trainer hours here at school, and there'd be trainers at all events or most of our events. That was a budget cut this year with the budget being tight. So there are no trainers hours here at school anymore. So if an athlete does have an injury, you may have to work through, the coach or, maybe go see your own physician or something like that. We do have a very limited, we got approved here that we may have a trainer at some of our varsity events for this fall 2 season, but they won't be at probably all events. So you want to plan accordingly as an athlete. After school, at this point in time, we don't have supervision in different areas after school. We used to have someone that would be hanging out maybe in the high school lobby or in the gym lobby. Okay, we don't have that this year. So it's important that if your practice is not right after school, okay, that you're actually leaving the building and then coming back only for your game time or your practice time. So let's say it's a game that's at 4:30. You really shouldn't be hanging around in the high school gym area in the lobby waiting for that game to start. You need to leave the building, come back closer to the game time. If you are staying after school, maybe it's a 3 o'clock practice and you're staying after school, you should be with a teacher. So find one of your courses, one of your teachers that's going to be staying. It's a great time to get extra help anyway, and that's where you should be. But you shouldn't be roaming the back hallways or just hanging out in lobbies somewhere. We are on social media. That's where we post the links on our Facebook page. If you do a search for Haverling Rams Athletics, all together is one word, is the actual link to it, but it'll come up this way too. And that's where we post the links to our live feeds and try to give updated information about what's happening in athletics in general. But a lot of it is when we have a home game, you'll see the links there for the live streams. Other good sources of information is the activity scheduler app. If you're someone who hasn't downloaded that yet, it'll give you all the same information about the athletic calendar information that's from our website. but this is an app that would be solely on your phone. I have this on my phone. I use it quite a bit. I just pull up the app. It shows me the events that are going on that day, or I can be specific with a certain day or time. And it saves me having to go to the school's website and load it that way. There's also the Haverling High School app, which gives the athletic calendar information is there, along with a lot of things that even just the students may want to be paying attention to, fundraisers or class events that are going on, or things that are going on within the school that aren't athletic based. But there is that Haverling High School app that you can download as well. Social media information, this is for students, this is for staff, this is for parents. Obviously, it's for anybody. And it's not even just athletically based, but there are certain things, as I hope we are all aware, that should be posted and not posted on social media. Like during one of our live streams, if you're on our Facebook Live, it's not the time to post, maybe negative comments to somebody that's on the other team, or somebody that's on our team, or to coaches, or whatever else. And remember, this is seen by everybody now. And it's important that you don't put yourself in a situation where somebody can misconstrue maybe even what you meant, or whatever, especially from athletes. Not that everybody's going to go play in college, but college coaches do look at your social media. I know a specific case from this fall where an athlete had a scholarship. They posted some stuff on social media. College coach was watching it and removed that offer. And this was for a local athlete, not one here at Haverling, but this was for a local athlete. So it is something that is looked at. So you want to be very mindful of what you're posting on social media. General expectations, parent-wise, the 24-hour rule is important. Obviously we're all under stress and pressure. We're all well over COVID, and we would just like to be back to normal. And unfortunately, that's not the case, at this time. So if you are having a rough time with, the expectations of, athletes having to wear face masks or whatever else, or you don't like something that the coach is doing, or, anything where you just want to voice an opinion, we do ask that you have the 24-hour rule in mind. Sometimes it's just a heated moment, and you need to allow yourself just to cool down a little bit. Think about that. Give yourself 24 hours before contacting the coach. Talk with your child too. A lot of times, maybe your child didn't play in a game and you're heated about that. I understand that. I'm a parent too. But your child might say, well, I did tell coach, I wasn't feeling well, or my leg was hurting, or whatever else, so he wasn't going to play me today. A difficult situation of, going up to the coach after the game and saying, I want to talk to you right now. How come my kid didn't get to play? Where it could have been a very simple explanation just to talk with, the player. Obviously, we expect everybody to be positive, in your cheering and that kind of stuff throughout the season. There is one piece, I think I had it as a slide and then I kind of hit it, but I do want to draw attention to it. There was a comment where somebody had questioned why we have to do white cards for every season. Why can't we just do them one time during the year? And I just want to kind of cover that basis. The white cards are first season, first of all. So part of the white card is the nurse's office signing off on it, that physicals are up to date, that if there was an injury in a prior season, that's been remedied, and we have, permission from a doctor for that child to play, this upcoming sports season. Plus, the white cards don't get turned back in. They stay with that coach during that season. Generally, they're in their med kit, and that way, if the coach does have an emergency situation, this is what gives them authorization to send with the ambulance that they can begin treatment if we can't get a hold of the parent right away. So it's important that each coach has these cards, but it's also the authorization from a parent, from yourselves, that you agree that your child can play this sport. You might have said in the fall, yeah, no problem, they can play soccer, but no, I don't want them to play one of these fall 2 sports. So it's your authorization for each of these sports individually. So that's why we have to do them for each of the seasons. So we do ask, keep your your cheering positive and be that positive role model for our young athletes. They certainly greatly appreciate it. We don't have a lot of spectators. So sometimes, now when maybe you yell out in frustration certain things, everybody's hearing it now because there's not a lot of people to drown you out. So be a fan, be positive. It's okay to cheer when the other team does something great too. Okay. That's what I mean by being a fan of the game. So just little things to obviously keep in mind. I realize you may have other questions. Maybe there wasn't something specifically that I covered. So my email address is there. I'll leave this up there for a couple of minutes. This presentation will also I'll have the PowerPoint presentation that I just used. I'll have that up on our athletic website. There's a spot there for all these preseason previews or parent presentations, as well as I'll have a link for this actual Zoom meeting as well when we're done with that. It'll be an interesting season. It's very fast. We're playing a lot more games in a shorter amount of time than what we normally do. So it's an opportunity to play. And that's, what I want to stress more than anything else. It's not normality. Don't expect it to be normal. With the spectator piece and with the athletes having to wear face masks and we're playing games almost every other day, it seems like it's not normal and it's not going to be normal. Things do change on a moment's notice. We could have an outbreak of cases that shut us down. We can have Department of Health change their mind, where all of a sudden we can say, hey, more spectators are allowed now, or less spectators are allowed now. It's a very fluid situation, both for our home events and for our away events. So, we do the best we can with it. We try to make the most of it and give our kids the opportunity to get to do something that maybe they wouldn't have had the opportunity to do a couple of months ago. At this point, I'm done with the presentation. I will say that spring sports signups, traditional spring sports, the way that they normally have been, are going on now. And your child should have received an email from me a couple of days ago with the direct information on how to sign up for the spring sports. And I did want to point that out because it seems like we're doing signups like every 2 days right now, with all these seasons kind of being jammed in and seasons being moved around. So spring sports signups are going on now, even though we're just starting these fall 2 sports. There will be, I know one question that may come up, there may be a little bit of overlap at the end of the fall 2 season, the football, volleyball, and cheer, into the spring sports season. Some practices do carry over. Okay, so 3 practices will carry over from the fall 2 sports into the spring sports. And there may be a time where there might be a game overlap. I know I just saw, I can't remember if it was a modified football game or a JV football game, something like that, that's on the 21st of April, even though the spring sports start on the 19th of April. Athletes can go to both practices. They could do a football practice, for instance, and then go to a baseball practice. But it is our expectation that they would take care of the in-season sport that's just finalizing, if it can't be worked out, like both practices are at the same time. It's also our expectation that there wouldn't be a lot of undue pressure from coaches from either season. Like, no, you got to be here. Okay, you don't have to worry about football that's almost done. We're just getting started. It is our expectation that that's not happening. If you do have an occurrence where that's happening, you let me know, and I'll take care of that. But that's all I have for you this evening. I appreciate you taking a half hour out of your night to go through some of this important information. I realize it's short. It's not quite as personable as if we were all sitting in the auditorium together. So like I said, if you do have questions, definitely send me an email. And I look forward to seeing everybody at some of our events, and good luck to all the teams and athletes as we go forward. Have a good night, everyone.